then the stars align and I actually get to film with some really good friends of mine. In this case, Emily and Aaron Reeves of Flying Sparks Garage. We are down in Maybank, Texas. It's about 107 degrees and I am behind the wheel of Emily's first car, a 2005 GTO, aptly named Roxy. And let me tell you something, this thing, oh, it is not stock at all. From the factory, the GTO came with an LS2, right? You're talking about 400 horsepower and around 400 pound-feet of torque. But now, residing under the hood is a 6.7 liter LS motor that makes about 600 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque at the tires. Now, the car remained stock for quite some time, but as Emily got older and as Aaron got older and their tastes changed and they wanted to start doing more things with it, well, the car kind of grew with them. But here's the kicker. She did it in a way that made the car better, and sometimes that's a really tough thing to do.
Watching vehicles grow with their owner, well, that warms my big old heart. Remember, when Emily bought the GTO, she was still in her teens, and she knew back then that it would be her forever car. She also knew that if done smartly, both her and Aaron could use the GTO as somewhat of a launching pad to start their business. But to do so, they had to be strategic and come to grips with the fact that as their business grew, so would the GTO.
What we do for a living, I'll say we, because my husband and I work together, but we are content creators. We have a YouTube channel where we work on things with engines. So Roxy GTO was my first car when I was 18. I met Aaron when I was 14. We went to church together. When we met, he was a mechanic and worked on heavy diesels. So because I wanted to be with him all the time, I ended up being in the shop, and that's what got me started on my passion for working on stuff.
I was a Corvette guy, always wanted one, always dreamed about them. And so I tried to push her in the direction of a Corvette. And I think we were at the State Fair of Texas and she saw the GTO. Back then it was a 350 horsepower stick shift car and there was a picture of it doing a burnout. And she found a picture in Hot Rod magazine and she put it on her wall.
Like a centerfold in Hot Rod magazine where it was 2 pages opened up and it was pretty much exactly Roxy. And I was like, I want that car. To me, it was a Corvette powertrain. It had the same LS2 as the Corvette of that year, and it was understated. And it was kind of like, if you know, you know kind of car. And I liked that, and I liked that they were low numbers. They only imported like 30,000 of them from 04 to 06. So I knew there would not be many on the road, and I thought that was cool. And I liked the sleeper vibe. Like, they're understated and sexy, and I just wanted that.
Now, aside from having this built LS under the hood, sitting on top of it is a TVS 2300 Magnuson blower. Here's the thing about a blower. That whine is so intoxicating.
We've always just made it happen. Like when we bought Roxy, it was not my parents. They had to co-sign for us because we had no credit, but we made every payment. Especially being an 18-year-old girl, like people were like, oh, daddy bought you that or whatever, but no, I mean, I was making money modeling, Aaron was working hard in the shop. We bought our house when I was 19. So like, we started adulthood pretty dang early.
Now, visually on the inside, there's not that many differences from stock, right? I've got an oil pressure gauge, I've got a boost gauge, and I have this roll cage. Now, the roll cage is here because these guys, they don't drive this thing, you know, easily. They romp on this sucker. Transmission-wise, we're talking about a T56, but it's got TR6060 internals with a short shifter and a triple disc ceramic clutch. So I'm not gonna lie, the clutch in this thing is ridiculously heavy. In fact, when I first got in and started to drive it, I don't know how Emily's left leg isn't that much bigger than her right leg, and how she just doesn't walk around in circles to the right. I wouldn't want to get stuck in traffic. On the road, it's really not that bad, but what I do like is that the engagement is fantastic, and you're never gonna feel a slip.
I daily drove the GTO for like 15 years. So that really racked up the miles. It's got just under 200,000 miles on it, which I'm pretty dang proud of. She's just super solid, and I'm so proud of that car for that. Her latest rendition we did in 2019 for Hot Rod Drag Week. So when we did the boosted setup, we stuck with the cast iron block. So it was stroked to 408 cubic inches. So it went from a 6-liter to a 6.7. It's got completely forged internals, so super beef motor. So it was perfect for boost. So we got the TVS 2300 from Magnuson. It's only running like 4 pounds of boost, but it put down 620 at the tire. And I mean, it's so fun to drive. Like for me, on the track, my best time's been an 1120, but my mile per hour is like 127, so I know it's got 10s in it. I just have to drive it to that, like get my shift points down, get my launch down. But that's the fun part, and especially those drag and drives where other racers come to your pit afterwards and they're like, you should try launching at 2,500 instead of $4,000, you know, you should try this, you should try that. It's like the camaraderie is so cool and heartwarming and just badass. But really that car just gets driven daily. Like I put the street tires back on it and just drive it.
So I'm down here in Texas with Emily Reeves of Flying Sparks Garage. And well, it's time to thank Peak for being a huge sponsor of the House of Muscle. But I do have a question for you. We're in Texas, and dear God in heaven, it is hot.
How do I stay cool?
Yeah.
I don't. But I do put Peak in my car because I really don't want to overheat.
Well, do me a favor, put AC in your car for next time I come down here.
Oh, it's good for you. It's character building.
Constantly reinventing a vehicle to meet the demands of different disciplines is no small feat. But an even greater challenge lies with the owner, as they must now slide back into the driver's seat to rediscover, relearn, and then remaster the nuances of driving it. For Emily and Aaron, though, this is not and never was a burden. Instead, it was a journey, and one that pushed their limits to evolve not just a car, but themselves as well.
Aaron had gotten me headers for Christmas for Roxy. And we had the car on the dyno in late January, putting a new tune in it after the headers. And her oil pump said goodbye, left the chat. And so upon the down rev and it started knocking, my heart just sank and I was like, well, what are we gonna do? Because I mean, he had splurged on these eBay headers. There was not a lot of margin there. And so I was like, Aaron, this is like our opportunity.
So Emily said, well, I think it's time to start YouTube and I'm gonna get this sponsored. And she did. 0 subscribers, she managed to get everything sponsored.
March of 2015 was our first video, and it was building the 408 stroker for Roxy.
One of the secrets about having a really fast car is also being able to control the power, right? It's how does that power get to the pavement, and moreover, how do you control it? This car, believe it or not, even though they drag race it, handles absolutely beautifully. The car is super composed, there's no rubbing, there's no hitting, and I think, again, that's in part to Emily and Aaron really owning the car for so long and going through this. But I like the fact that it's a jack of all trades, and they treat it that way. They have no issue modifying it to fit whatever their particular need is of the day, which is just plain cool. Up front, fully independent suspension with KW coilovers. Out back, fully independent suspension with a Ford 9-inch center section with 330 gears. Now, you know, driving this thing, we've been tooling around basically in third, because as soon as you go up to fifth, we're just lumping along, and if you go to sixth, I mean, it just kind of falls flat. I mean, it's such a deep overdrive gear that I don't know if I'd ever use sixth gear unless I was doing 90 plus miles an hour on the highway. Obviously, the wheels and tires have been upgraded. Now, these wheels, I believe, are made by a company called ASA. They have been discontinued, but they look perfect on this car. In fact, I was talking to Em about them, and she just said we liked them so much, we just keep getting them refinished if, you know, the finish starts to go or what have you. And I really like that. I really like the idea that they've stayed with the original look and feel of the car because it just makes them happy. That's kind of cool. But they drag race the hell out of it. They've done power tour. They do not have a truck and a trailer. So if you see this car, it has been driven there. And I love that. I love that. I love the fact that it's got 200,000 miles on it. And that Emily will never ever sell this thing. It's just, it's such a rare thing to keep your first car. Yo, folks, this is a very, very fast car, but one of my favorite parts about not only the speed is just how composed it is. Emily and Aaron, you guys built one hell of a machine, and I completely understand why you're never gonna get rid of it, because I would never get rid of this car. You guys crushed it.
The direction that Emily and I's life has taken, this is fantasy land. I don't really know how we got here. I know that she was an actress and a model, and I was a mechanic, and somehow we've got this thing in the middle that's working. It's morphed into something I never could imagine, but I like where we're at. It's fun.
To us, family is a huge part of it because we love many parts of the country. We see a lot of places and we run and run and run, but having a family unit, which we do, like on the street we have 4 generations. That is something that can't be replaced. We also love the small town vibe. Women that watch the channel or dads that watch with their daughters or their wives that wouldn't get involved until they watched us. And I'm not trying to be somebody that has it all figured out. I'm just stoked to be out here and creating cool stuff to go make memories in. I've cried big alligator tears reading comments sometimes where I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes a difference in people's lives. And that makes me so happy.
All right, so here's the deal. Normally, I would try to convince the owners that to let me do a burnout. However, this is Emily's first car. It is so sentimental that there is no way in hell that I am even going to ask.
I told him he could.
I know, and she did. She actually said, go ahead and do it. This is your car. You know this baby better than anything. What I'm gonna say is this. Let's do a burnout for the kids. What do you think?
Let's do it for the kids.
All right, let's do it for the kids.
I'm obsessed with my line lock, so anytime I get to use it.
Second gear. Hit it. Oh, burnouts just never ever get old. Yeah! Oh, it's so good. What a great day here on the House of Muscle. Emily, thank you for trusting me with your first car, your 2005 GTO. Aaron, thank you for letting us come in and invade Flying Sparks Garage. Outstanding. But here's the thing. It's about 107 degrees. It's really hot. The car is now back in the shop. It's time to get some barbecue and a frosty beverage. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time on the House of Muscle.